right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this Good Friday service. And just a reminder, on Easter Sunday, you're welcome to come a little bit earlier at 9:30 and have a wonderful brunch downstairs in the fellowship hall. And be sure and invite your friends and your family. They're all welcome. If you will please stand with me for our call to worship, and your part is the bold black type. Judas, slave of jealousy, where are you? Peter, slave of fear, where are you? Thomas, slave of doubt, where are you? Pilate, slave of expediency, where are you? Men and women and children of Jerusalem, enslaved to mob rule, where are you? The story of Christ's passion and death mirrors for us much of our own struggle. We all come here, people who have missed the mark in some way and who are sometimes alienated from God, our neighbor, both near and far. Let us join together for tonight's journey to the cross. And we're going to begin in the Methodist hymnal. They're all from the Methodist hymnal tonight. Number 452, verses 1, 2, and 3. My faith looks up to thee, thou Lamb of Calvary, Savior divine. Now hear me while I pray, take all my guilt away. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine. May thy rich grace impart strength to my fainting heart, my zeal inspire, as thou hast died for me. Oh, may my love to thee pure, warm, and changeless be, a living fire. While life's dark maze I tread, and griefs around me spread, be thou my guide. While darkness turn to day, wipe sorrow's tears away, nor let me ever stray from thee. Please be seated, and you can remain seated for the rest of the service when we sing the hymns. After sharing in the holy meal, Jesus and his disciples left for the Mount of Olives. As they walked, Jesus said to his disciples, "You will all desert me this very night, for so it is written in the prophet Zechariah, 'Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.'" Then Peter protested, "Though all desert, I will remain by you." Jesus replied, "I tell you truly, that in this very night, before the cock crows twice, you shall deny me 3 times. Still, Peter maintained, "Even though I must die with you, I will never deny you." And so declared all the disciples.
Jesus halted at an olive grove called Gethsemane. Then going apart with Peter, James, and John, he left them on watch and continued a little farther alone. There he fell on his face and in anguished prayer. Soon he returned to the three on watch and found them sleeping. Rousing them, he asked Peter, "Could you not watch with me for just 1 hour? Watch and pray that you are not put to the test, for the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, Jesus went apart in troubled prayer, and again he returned to find the disciples sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. A third time Jesus withdrew to pray, and a third time he found the disciples sleeping. Then Jesus said, "Sleep on and finish your rest. Now is the time for the Son of Man to be delivered into the hands of sinners. Here comes my betrayer."
Jesus had not finished speaking before Judas, one of his own disciples, arrived with a group of Roman soldiers and other armed men from the temple. Now the betrayer had arranged with the authorities for a sign and had said, "The man whom I kiss is the one you want." In accord with this arrangement, Judas went directly to Jesus and cried out, "Greetings, Master." Then he gave him the kiss. Jesus responded, "Judas, would you betray the Son of a Man with a kiss?" Immediately the soldiers laid hands on Jesus and held him fast. Then one of the disciples with Jesus drew his sword and cut off an ear from the slave of the high priest. But Jesus said to him, "Sheathe your sword. All who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Do you know that I can call upon my Father and that he will respond at once with more than 12 legions of angels?" Then turning to the mob, Jesus continued, "Have you come for me as against a rebel bandit with swords and clubs? Why did you not seize me in the temple when I was teaching by day? Were you so afraid by the Jewish people that you must come for me by stealth? Nevertheless, your actions are fulfilling the words of the prophets." Then all of his disciples forsook him and fled.
Number 288, the first 3 verses again. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they pierced him in the side?
Those who had seized Jesus brought him to Caiaphas, whom the Romans had made a high priest. Peter followed at a distance as far as the courtyard. There he sat with the attendants and warmed himself by the fire. The high priest had gathered his whole council, and they began to arrange the case against Jesus, which they would present to Pontius Pilate, the governor. The charge was that Jesus claimed to be king of the Jews. And they brought in many false witnesses, but to no avail. Finally, 2 came forward and testified. We heard this man say, I will tear down this temple made with hands, and within 3 days build another not made with hands. The testimony was evidence that Jesus claimed an authority over temple affairs, which traditionally belonged only to the rulers of Israel, and in those days, Israel was ruled from Rome. Yet even these witnesses were unable to agree on their testimony. Finally, Caiaphas stood up and examined Jesus directly. Have you no answer to these charges? Demanded the high priest. Jesus remained silent and answered nothing. Then the high priest put the question of kingship in terms of the royal titles. Anointed and Son of God, are you the anointed one? The Son of the Blessed, he probed. Jesus answered, I am, and you shall see the Son of Man seated on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. The high priest turned and said, what need we have? We have witnesses. He has condemned himself. They all concurred that Jesus was indeed worthy of death. Then those holding Jesus began to spit on him. They covered his face and were striking him as they taunted him and said, O anointed one, prophesy who it is who is striking you.
Now Peter was warming himself in the courtyard when a small slave girl entered. She confronted Peter and said, You also were with this Jesus the Nazarene. Peter quickly gave a denial. I don't know what you were talking about, he replied, and went outside into the gateway. Meanwhile, the cock crowed. The slave girl followed Peter out and said to the bystanders, This man is one of them. Again, Peter denied knowing Jesus. And after a little while, the bystanders said directly to Peter, Surely you are one of them, for you speak with a Galilean accent. And then Peter began to swear with an oath, I do not know this person of whom you are speaking. But the cock interrupted him as it crowed for the second time. Immediately, Peter remembered how Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and wept bitterly. Number 286. O sacred head now wounded, with grief and shame weighed down, now scornfully surrounded, with thorns thine only crown. How pale thou art with anguish, with sore abuse and scorn. How does that visage languish, which once was bright as morn? What thou, my Lord, hast suffered was all for sinners' gain. Mine was the transgression, but thine the deadly pain. Lo, here I fall, my Savior, 'tis I deserve thy place. Look on me with thy favor, vouchsafe to me thy grace. What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend, for this thy dying sorrow, thy pity without end? Oh, make me thine forever, and should I fainting be, Lord, lend me never, never outlive my love to thee.
Jesus delivered to Pilate. When morning arrived, all of the chief priests, along with the other Roman collaborators, bound Jesus and delivered him over to Pontius Pilate, the imperial Roman governor. When Judas saw what was happening, he knew that Jesus was doomed, and he repented. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and confessed, "I have sinned in betraying innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they responded. "That is your affair." Judas threw down the 30 pieces of silver in the temple. Then he went out and hanged himself. Picking up the silver pieces, the chief priest said, "It is unlawful to put this silver into the treasury, for it is blood money." Whereupon they used the money to buy the potter's field for the burial of strangers. Therefore, that field is known to this day as the field of blood.
Jesus stood before the Roman governor as the accusers made their charge. "We found this man perverting our nation," they said. "He was forbidding us to pay taxes to the emperor and proclaiming himself anointed king." The governor asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You say so." The chief priests were accusing him of many things. Therefore, Pilate again spoke to Jesus. "Have you no answer to give?" he asked. "Look at how many accusations they are making." Jesus astonished Pilate by remaining silent. At that festival, the governor used to release a prisoner, and some were urging Pilate to do so at this time. Now there was a notable rebel in prison with those who had committed murder during the insurrection. His name was Jesus Barabbas. Therefore, the chief priests arranged a demonstration to demand Barabbas. Pilate asked them, "Whom do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus the Anointed One?" The demonstrators shouted, "Barabbas!" Pilate responded, "What shall I do then with Jesus the Anointed One?" The crowd shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate continued, "Are you certain of his guilt?" The crowd took up the chant, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Again Pilate spoke, "Shall I crucify your king?" "We have no king but Caesar," cried the demonstrators. Then Pilate agreed to release Jesus Barabbas, but Jesus the Anointed One he handed over to his soldiers for scourging and crucifixion.
Number 287. O love divine, what hast thou done? The immortal God hath died for me, the Father's co-eternal Son, bore all my sins upon the tree. The immortal God for me hath died. My Lord, my love is crucified. He is crucified for me and you, to bring us rebels back to God. Believe, believe the record true. You all are bought with Jesus' blood. Pardon for all flows from his side. My Lord, my love is crucified. Behold him all, ye that pass by, the bleeding Prince of life and peace. Come, sinners, see your Savior die, and say, was ever grief like his? Come, feel with me his blood sublime. My Lord, my love is crucified.
The soldiers led Jesus away within the governor's palace. There they assembled the whole battalion. They clothed Jesus in royal purple. They set a crown of thorns upon his head and shoved a reed between his head, fingers for a scepter. They began to mock him by kneeling before him and proclaiming, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They also spat upon him and smote him on the head with a stick. Then, after mocking him, they took away the purple, returned his own clothes, and brought him out to crucify him. On the road they met Simon of Cyrene coming from the countryside. Him they compelled to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha, which means skull. There they crucified him. They offered him wine. Wine mingled with myrrh, but he refused it. His garments they divided among themselves, casting lots for him. Over his head they inscribed the charge against him, "The King of the Jews." Also, there were 2 insurrectionists crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by were shaking their heads in derision and saying, "So, you would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Save yourself. Come down from the cross." Likewise, the priestly collaborators mocked him as they said to one another, "He saved others. Himself he could not even save. Let the Anointed One, the King of Israel, come down from the cross that we might see. Then we might believe." Even the 2 crucified with him reviled him.
Now from midday there was darkness over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At that hour Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," Aramaic words that mean, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of the bystanders said, "Look, he's calling for Elijah." One of them put a sponge full of vinegar on a stick and laid it on his lips. Others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." And then Jesus, having uttered a loud cry, breathed his last breath. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride. Forbid save in the death of Christ my God. All the vain things that charm me most, I sacrifice them to his blood. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did e'er such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a crown? Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. Go in peace. And may Jesus Christ, who for our sake became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, keep you and strengthen you this night and always.